we went through decades of decline in our armed forces. Really, when the Diefenbaker government left office in the early 60s, until the Afghanistan mission, and particularly the Kandahar part of it, which began when our government came into office, with a bit of an exception for the Mulrooney years, our armed forces were being reduced, pulled out of Europe, fewer capacities, fewer aircraft, fewer ground forces, to the point where in the 90s and the early part of the last decade, 10 years ago, we were considered irrelevant in NATO terms. Now we're no longer considered that way. We are ready for counterinsurgency, we are ready for maritime interdiction, we are ready to deploy humanitarian resources and military resources around the world quickly, as you saw in the Philippines, thanks to the new strategic lift that we have. We are taken seriously, and we have invested in our armed forces at a time when most of our allies have been cutting back heavily. So that puts us in a different place. I think Canadians understand in today's world of uncertainty how important that is. We don't have an enormous armed forces, but we do need to be able to show leadership and project force in the world when the situation requires it.
On Canada as a whole, I think it's a bit more difficult. I mean, when you look at numbers, yes, there were 164 Canadians, 158 soldiers killed in Afghanistan, a little over 2,000 wounded. And those families are going to be feeling this for the rest of their lives. But when you compare it to the Second World War, where we sent over a million Canadians, more than 40,000 people never returned, the scale is just, it's very different. And even I noticed in 2008, the last time I was there, the public appetite for the story was diminishing. Issue fatigue, a lot of people call it. And while the troops coming home, there were lots of stories, lots of interest. I think, again, people will be learning about this and analyzing it forevermore. It's going to be in our history books, and we're going to be talking about it. But in terms of an impact on the wider Canadian public, probably not as huge as wars of decades past.
Well, I'd like to see, this is my personal view, I'd like to see that we just keep pushing forward and, retain the knowledge that we've achieved to this point. The horrors of the world will never stop, unfortunately, so it is important that, we are always adaptable, and that every situation that comes forward, that we can do the job that we need and protect our citizens and hopefully other countries that are unable to do the same.
The war in Afghanistan, its impact on the future of the forces, I think it built up the Army. The Navy and the Air Force got a little bit, some new helicopters and some new planes. That I'm sure that made them happy. The Navy was ignored a little bit, so I think we're gonna hopefully we'll see the Navy get some of the money they need and some of the new equipment. And we have a generation of, because 10 years is a pretty long time, so we've got a lot of experience now that can be used to take the Canadian forces into the future. So which way it'll go, I can't say. Hopefully some of the best stuff is held on to and some of the lessons learned are written down. And even if the people that brought those lessons in and made the knowledge possible aren't kept, at least maybe the knowledge is kept around, even if it is only in books.